Welcome to the YouPitchLive Podcast for Phoenixes. At YouPitchLive, we aim far beyond the conventional unicorn paradigm of the venture world. We are on a mission to spearhead a significant leap in innovation by introducing the Phoenix era, directly aligning our aspirations with the global 2030 sustainable goals. Our focus is on nurturing startups that not only rise but soar, embodying resilience and innovation to address the needs of both conventional and digital civilizations on the horizon. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hello, everyone. We have Amanda Zouderveld with us from Omnēque, and she's going to be talking to us about her amazing project and her company that has actually gone through an enormous journey so far, right? So we are very happy and excited to welcome Amanda. Amanda, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience and walk us through what have you been up to and how you are actually going to make this world a better place.
Amazing. Thank you very much for having me.
Great.
So I'm the founder of Omnēque. I started Omnēque in 2020, and the idea was to create a platform for vintage and antique jewelry so that we would effectively be, rather than selling new products, be delving into the jewels from years gone by. So a little bit about me and a little bit about Omnēque. So my name's Amanda. I'm the driving force behind Omnēque. I've been in the digital space for over 25 years, which means I'm probably showing my age. In the very early days, I was one of the pioneers of e-commerce retail within the luxury space. I built Gina Shoes in 1999. It was one of the first e-commerce websites ever to go live within that space. And then that journey kind of carried on and saw me then join first Nestle and then Richemont. Richemont felt like home. I was in the watches and jewelry division, and I was responsible for rolling out their markets globally, worldwide. So that love of tech and jewelry has always felt like my true home. I've always been a bit of a magpie. I've always kind of been going after my auntie's rings and going through her treasure box and sort of saying, well, I want that one and I want that one. Old jewelry has always appealed to me so much more than new, because I find that the craftsmanship is so much better. You know, in today's sort of fast-paced, fast fashion era, there's a lot of jewelry out there which is gold-plated and it's mass-produced, whereas, you know, vintage jewelry was made at the bench, and very often you'll find that it's, you know, real gold and it's just so beautiful and the value holds. It's the kind of jewelry that gets passed down. And I think in today's day and age, we really need to be looking at being sustainable, being more circular, and actually using the resources that we have. And when I was at Richemont, I saw that they had bought Watchfinder, and that was like the first dedicated platform purely for watches. But there was nothing like it for jewelry. You know, jewelry is quite antique in that sense, in both the actual product and the way that they sell. You know, these Fausty antique shops in the back of little markets or bric-and-brac. You know, I wanted to reframe vintage jewelry and bring it to the market where it was curated, it was authenticated, and it was valued before you'd actually even hit the website. And it turned out, as the FT told me, that my timing was spot on, because vintage has literally exploded. Resale has exploded in the last few years. And, you know, as a market, you know, currently it's worth 6.6 billion, and it's going to more than double by 2026. It is, you know, every single statistic that I saw when I was first researching this product in sort of 2019 and 2020 basically told me that the trajectory for resale was going to be massive. And while a lot of people are saying that 2022 was a high point, it is predicted to more than double. So I think that actually, as much as I love vintage jewelry, the timing is utterly spot on. And it's a business which we divide between online sales and offline sales. So average online sale is under £2,500. But when somebody wants somebody specific, or they'd like to see a piece, or they want to talk about the sort of, you know, the gold or the cut or the color, then they tend to pick up the phone. So our sales are very much divided between online and offline. And that dual approach allows us to capture quite a diverse market.
And Amanda, just one thing, just interesting, incredible stats that you shared with us here today. Last time when we met, you were a part of the online pitching competition that was happening with YouPitchLive, and that was very short. Couple of minutes you had to actually fit everything in, right? Talk to me about your experience on. You went to Shark Tank, I believe, right? Or Dragon's Den. Was it Dragon's
actually,
Den?
Yeah, it was Dragon's Den. So
Dragon's Den.
I think I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I think at the age of 9, I was stealing the drinks out of my parents' restaurant fridge and setting up a little shop on the golf course opposite our house, which turned over quite a tidy profit. So I've always kind of had this entrepreneurial spirit. And in 2005, I set up a company called Style Bible, which, unlike Omnēque, was a little bit too early for its time. It was way before influencers. But the idea was very much like Omnēque. It was curating places where you could go, eat, sleep, drink, and shop around the world. So for those people who were cash rich, but time poor, that didn't want to waste their time when they were away on places that weren't so good, this was a curated online concierge that would allow you to plan your trips more efficiently so you had a great time. And I launched it in July 2005. And not long afterwards, the BBC gave me a call and asked me to come and do Dragon's Den, which I then found myself on quite short notice on a plane from the States where I was launching Style Bible New York. And I flew back to do the show. And it was, how can I describe it? It was definitely an experience. And all I'll say is sometimes what you see on the telly isn't exactly what happens behind the scenes. But I did get to write a very nice piece for The Independent called "The Dragons Ate Me Alive." So if anybody was interested in hearing a little bit more about that experience, it's on The Independent, and I definitely recommend that you look it up.
Oh, that is wonderful, and I would say it was pretty nerve-wracking as well when you, how was the experience? So if somebody, let's say, want to get a little bit of a sneak peek as to what goes on, how would you describe that experience?
How would I describe the experience? I think that, you have to remember that I was probably one of the earliest series, so I'd like to think it's probably got a little bit better since then. But for me, I think one of the hardest bits was, it sort of makes this look like a walk in the park, because you kind of come out of the lift and you stand on the X, and I pretty much got through my entire pitch, but the lights were sort of right above my head. And because I'm quite a tall girl, I kind of felt them getting like sort of hotter and hotter and hotter until about a second before the end, or a minute before the end of my pitch, I kind of went, "Ow, this is burning." And then they sort of went, cut, and you have to go downstairs and do it all again. And that was pretty horrific, because when I came up the second time, this time they'd put the lights to the left and right of me. And that meant that actually I was getting so hot that about halfway through my pitch, I was sweating so badly. I thought I'd done a wee on national television. It was hideous. So at that point, I think I'd sort of lost my train of thought for a second. And there's this very long, awkward pause, which was absolutely horrific. I've got to be honest. I think my dad phoned me up afterwards and said, "You're better than that," and then hung up. I didn't enjoy the experience. I think we can say, but I think if you can do Dragon's Den, then I think that it sets you up pretty well for pitching further down the line.
And I can see that actually you're very natural, the storytelling element and the way you are able to explain the experiences. So that brings us to, do you want to actually walk us through your quick pitch so the audience can get this structured insight as to what you're doing, where you're at, and what exactly you're looking for in the next 6 to 12 months? Just share that insight with us. If you want to share your presentation, your deck, that you're more than welcome to do so, Amanda.
Is it currently sharing now? Can you? I'm not
No.
sure if it's sharing on the screen. Oh, okay. Let me get you. Let's go. Beginners.
And you have walked us through the very inside sort of a background and how you build up to it anyway. So yeah, we'll just continue on with that.
No problem. Let me just work out how to. It's not letting me share my screen for some reason. Here we go. There we go. So as I've said, we're on Omnēque, a vintage jewellery platform. We've been going for 3 years, and we are currently looking to raise £150,000 at a discounted valuation of £2.5 million. The reason that we've done that is because last year was quite a tough year for us, and we restructured some of our cap table. So we decided to really sort of hone in on sales and really focus on all of the efforts that we've done so far. And we're seeking to raise 150,000. It's through an EIS, SCIS fundraising initiative. So that makes us quite an interesting investment, I would say. What we're doing is actually building a very sustainable solution that's going to embrace new technology to reframe vintage jewelry. And our mission is to become the Chronos 24 of the jewelry world. Why
Amazing.
vintage jewelry? Well, the problem with vintage jewelry is that stock is very inaccessible. It's kind of in markets, sort of Fausty dealers, there's a little bit online. But unless you're a jewelry expert, it's actually quite hard to know what's valuable, what's a good piece, if it's, unless you're looking at it through a loop, whether it's damaged or not. So I would say that in a lot of instances, the biggest problem with vintage jewelry is the fact that the authentication is pretty weak, and that the people who are buying it don't have enough knowledge to determine what is great and what is not so great. And I think that especially, that's definitely changing now. But in the past, people kind of felt that the service that came with new kind of gave them more of a better shopping experience. But that's massively changing. In 2021, 90 million people sold something online for the first time. And that was up from 16 million in 2020. So, how we shop is definitely changing. How we think about shopping is very much changing. Sustainability, sort of having a product which can live on, that we don't have to mine for. So the solution with Omnēque was firstly to create a marketplace where everybody could access the jewelry very easily, and to only access jewelry, not watches, not handbags, a very specific niche, which is vintage and antique jewelry. And then we worked with some of the best jewelry. We work with some of the best jewelry experts within the industry, because our mission is to authenticate those pieces, to curate those pieces, and to value those pieces before they ever hit the website. So actually on Omnēque, we don't have hundreds of thousands of pieces of jewelry. They are very, very highly curated, where the valuations are there. There's a very high touch customer service point. And so that people feel like they're in a trusted place to buy the product. And then the last bit of our solution will be implementing technology to really push this industry ahead. And for that, I'd like to use blockchain. And I know that for many, blockchain is a great sort of key buzzword, but for us, it allows us to support the provenance of the piece. It's going to reduce the amount of fakes that are stolen, the amount of fakes that are produced. It's going to reduce the amount of fenced goods that have sort of been stolen and sold on the black market. And blockchain is going to give us that story behind the piece before you even buy it. Our business model is really split between e-commerce and personal shopping. So as I mentioned before, e-commerce tends to focus below £2,500, and anything over that tends to fall into the personal shopping, where there's a higher touch service. We source our jewelry from antique dealers that are very reputable, that are known within the industry. We also source jewelry from the public. Currently, we're doing it on a proof of concept privately, manually, but actually we're looking to roll out the peer-to-peer globally. Some of the best jewelry is hiding in people's jewelry boxes all around the world. And then we also source, what we're looking to do now is to launch a RAS service, resale as a service. There are a lot of brands out there that still don't know how to touch their resale market. They know that they have to do it. They're not comfortable selling it themselves. We aim to be the platform that is trusted to be able to sell those brands' jewelry. So we get the jewelry from 3 different sources, and then we sell it either online through the web, through social media, through the email platform that we use. We also have a very strong affiliate marketing program and a personal shopper program. And then in addition to that, we also do pop-up events, which fall into the personal shopping. So personal shopping is very much the personal shoppers that we work with. We have some external partnerships, which allows us to put our jewelry within a retail environment. We run pop-ups, and we do quite a few private events, and then coming soon will be our app. The price of our pieces is actually sort of quite wide ranging. We have a great range, which is under 250, which is very much aimed at Gen Z and that e-commerce side of things. But actually, a lot of the personal shopping that we do is very specialized. People ask for very specific things, and the amounts are much, much higher. So we, at the moment, we work on a commission basis. And then as those services roll out, there will be listing fees, partnership fees, and the business models expands to allow us to be truly global across those 3 platforms.
Powerful.
To date, we have sold £735,000 worth of jewelry. We have invested to date 1.2 million. And we have been very, very fortunate in the sense that the press have been incredibly good to us. And I would stress that not one of these pieces is advertorial, it is all editorial. The day that we launched, Vogue very kindly described us as the titans of the jewelry industry coming together. The Financial Times is also one of our big fans because they described us as the vestiaire of vintage jewelry, and more recently actually named us as one of the only platforms in the resale sector that is vying for that top spot of the race to be the Chronos 24 for vintage jewelry. So, I mean, I've only made a sort of short pitch in this instance. I do have a bigger deck, which I'd be more than happy to share with somebody that was interested in seeing it, but I do appreciate that we've only really got 5 minutes today. So I wanted to try and keep it a little bit brief and short.
No, you were incredible, Amanda. And, you know, the journey has been absolutely phenomenal. And I love the way, and I would like you to hone in a little bit more on the technology element, because you see, it sounds like you are leading the innovation in something which is so significant, you know, amazing for our planet, amazing for, you know, the circular economy, as we were talking about, you know, earlier on. So just hone in a little bit that how do you see technology paving that path and you know, changing this entire industry or disrupting this entire industry?
As well as being a magpie, I'm also a bit of a geek. I speak 5 languages well and another 2 badly. So I guess computer programming languages come to me a little bit easier than most. So my background's very much been in tech. I've worked in tech within luxury goods for 25 years, and technology has effectively allowed us to work remotely. You know, you've got to remember, I started this business during COVID, where everybody was remote. No one had met each other. Everybody was at the far-flung corners of the globe. So I think that there's a lot of platforms out there like Confluence, Jira, Notion, which actually really allowed us as a business to be able to operate during a time when the world was shut down. So I'm very grateful for that. I would say that to some degree, that was one of the difficulties, because when you have a lot of creatives on your team, trying to get them involved in things like tickets and wikis, but my team were amazing and kind of all came on board. So at the very grassroots of it, that I think has been amazing for us because it has allowed us to operate across multiple locations. Then going forwards, initially, I actually just used Shopify. I used a template that I downloaded for $20. I got a designer to change it. There was no point reinventing the wheel when we first started. It was a proof of concept. I wanted to prove the business. I've been in large corporations where the bill for building a website is £1 million, and that was not going to happen with Omnēque. So at first, we spent very little money on technology, and what we really did was spend a lot of time in mapping out what we wanted to do through understanding the business as it developed. You know, resale was new to me in that sense. Mm-hmm. And then now going forwards, you know, I think that there are so many opportunities that are coming our way to really make this business grow into what the predictions say that it's going to be. And I think that Web3 and blockchain will be instrumental in the business for us. You know, I mean, just little things. You know, we had Lady Gaga wore our Gucci horsebit bracelet to the premiere of House of Gucci. It was a big moment. Wow. And we had this bracelet. So if you imagine that bracelet was on the blockchain, so we get the bracelet from the dealer, we list it on our blockchain, and if you've got the original receipt, then you can put the original receipt with it. And then a few weeks later, when Lady Gaga's stylist asked us for pieces for the premiere, we gave them to her, and then Getty Image took a picture. That then goes onto the blockchain. But it allows you to keep this record, and that record within jewelry, I think, is so important, because You know, there is a lot of maisons these days won't actually validate their own jewelry. They won't authenticate it because there are so many good fakes out there. And that some of those products, even though they're, you know, a few £1,000s, or, you know, the actual, to be able to validate them all is actually really difficult. So I think that something like blockchain will make it so much stronger, especially with stuff like stolen goods. I mean, you know, crime is up in an awful lot of cities these days, and watches and jewelry is getting stolen. So I see blockchain as a really great way of being able to track jewelry, authenticate jewelry, you know, stop fakes being stolen, stop stolen stop stolen jewelry being stolen. And then I think as well with Web3, you know, I think that there's going to be a world where everything is going to be so much more traceable. And I think that within the jewelry business, I think that that's paramount. I think it's really important, and no one is doing it yet to the level that it needs to be done. And we intend to be the first.
That is wonderful. And, you know, listening to you, you truly have that entrepreneur's spirit, right? Starting off lean is something, you know, because at the initial stages, what we have found in our experience at YouPitchLive, that you just kind of go towards the glamour and unnecessary spending and, you know, product development and stuff. You build your business, you know, the proof of concept element that you talked about, that just getting as little as a template from Shopify, you know, it speaks volume of your experience and understanding as to how you are going to go to the market, validate your assumptions, and then build up on it. And then you have done incredible sales, right? So what are the sales to date?
£735,000 to the end of 2023. And that's taking into account that we had a difficult 2023.
And, you know, this is just incredible. And I want our audience to actually, you know, spend a couple of moments here, right, to understand that having the humility to actually come here and accept that we had a difficult challenge, a challenging year. We had a difficult year that we just went past. How you started, you know, so lean. This is what we stand for here at YouPitchLive as well, right? We said that we are pioneering the era of phoenixes who actually rise from the ashes, are not afraid to accept, you know, are not afraid to just, you know, face the challenges and accept when things are not going right, and then have a plan to, you know, address what they have learned and then just keep pursuing towards their vision. So my question to you, Amanda, here is, what keeps you going when things are not going the way you had planned, or the adversities are, you know, coming your way? I would love to hear your thought as to what keeps you going. And then obviously that your short-term plan of what you mentioned about 150,000 that you're looking to raise through EIS, a scheme, which again is wonderful for people, you know, who are paying a lot of taxes and they can get their tax rebate. And then what is your long-term plan as well? So 2 questions in one I just threw at you, but yeah, what keeps you going, and what is your imminent short-term plan and the long-term plan?
Okay, I'm somebody who's very determined. If I believe in something and I want to make it happen, where there is a will, there is a way. I remember years ago, an ex-boyfriend of mine, I told him about the Cannonball Run because he used to love cars. And I said, come on, we should do it. We should do it. You've got the car. We could do it. And he went and did it with some dude in his office and left me behind. I was absolutely livid. And by the next year's race, I had met the marketing director of The Sun. I had pitched that I'd do it as an all-girl car. I would bring a celebrity with me, and I was at the start line the following year. So I am somebody who does find a way of doing things. And I'm also someone who, if I really believe in something, I've just got to do it. You know, when my dad passed away, he left me this beautiful building, and it got rented to the wrong people, and it got turned into a brothel with some pretty unsavory Algerians running it. Do you know, it took me 12 years, 1 month and 1 day to get that building back, but I got it back. So there is a determination in me. I don't quite know where it comes from, but if I set my mind to something, I set out to do it. And you know, when you talk about what keeps you going, I never pitched for this business to start. I had the idea, and I wasn't sure I'd be able to raise the 2 million that I thought it was going to take to get the business off the ground. I'd worked at Richemont. I had worked in luxury goods. I knew how quickly stuff escalated. And also bearing in mind, I'm using some of the world's best jewelry specialists, how expensive, you know, that can be. And somebody told me, a private equity guy told me that his house had been burgled. He couldn't replace his wife's jewelry. And I was like, I've got a business idea for that. Now, originally, I had said that I would need 2 million. And actually, his circumstances changed slightly and we got half of that. And I'm really proud of the fact that we have come so far on so little, because 1.2 million across 3 years, it's 400 grand a year. And that's actually not very much money to set up a marketplace. And that then comes to another reason that keeps me going. Marketplaces take a really long time. Look at Net-a-Porter. When Net-a-Porter launched in 2000, Facebook wasn't even live to the public. And they were launching with 1 million. And that was 20 years ago. And you look at someone like The Real. I think at the end of last year, they announced they were going to break EBITDA even in Q1 this year. They've been going for 11 years. So I think some of what keeps me going is that actually Rome wasn't built in a day. And this is a business that is it's known for, there's a period of time where you are flatlining and about to go bust and about to take off all at the same time. And it's just about hitting that tipping point. And I love the challenge of being able to make money go further. I think it's just because I'm pretty Dutch and frugal. I love the idea that actually you can do things for less. And, when I was at Richemont as a project manager on their digital stuff, I actually did a lot of the negotiation for the maisons that I looked after. And I was known for walking into a meeting and coming out with the bill being halved. And we were talking a good, 7 figures at that point. So there is something in the challenge of it. There's something in the wanting, knowing that actually currently there is no other space like Omnēque. There is lots of other websites where you can buy vintage jewelry, but it's sitting next to trainers and handbags. And jewelry is so specialist. And we're doing something that's unique that no one else has done, or that is being done, but it's being done differently. And we want to be the first to really stop that market being quite as fragmented as it is. There was a great article in the FT recently that basically said there is a race for this spot. It doesn't make any sense that it's as fragmented as it is, and a winner is going to come out, and that winner is going to be me.
I love it. I love it. And again, going back to my second part of the question, so your short-term plan and your long-term plan, and what challenges do you see are still, the challenges that lie is still in your journey ahead? And what are your thoughts around addressing those? One of them being the technology element. Yes, you come from a very strong technological background, but these new technology and building these solutions is something, you're going to have to acquire a team or, onboard the key players. So how are you thinking in lines of that to get them to buy your dream and your determination?
So I think that, in terms of the technology, I've actually already started on that. And I was actually offered, somebody offered to buy 25% of Omnēque last August. And it was a Web3 and a blockchain company, and they wanted to come on board and basically provided all of our technology. Unfortunately, I didn't have confidence in their CEO, which was well placed because he left about 2 months later. And I turned that investment down. But I knew through the conversations that I'd had with them that I was on the right track. I'm also an ambassador for Help for Children. I believe in paying it forwards. And one of the chaps from Help for Children recently invited me for lunch to introduce me to an incredible girl who's actually just sold a business in AI and blockchain. And she is looking for a new project. So we had lunch last week and we're talking again this week. So in terms of how we do it, I think networking is very important, learning that space, because blockchain and AI is still new to me. I'm much more of a traditional tech background, not to say that I don't have the ability to learn. So I think from that point, I think that networking is very important. I think some of the challenges that I face is that I'm female. It's awful to say that in 2024, but it's very true. I'm a female solo founder. We received 1.7% of all startup money last year. Men received something like 66%, and the rest went to mixed teams. So I think that there still is this sort of gap between women getting funding and men getting funding, which I have definitely experienced. Just little things that you think, you turn up to a pitch and it's over a lunch and there's a bottle of champagne on ice. That's not normal. Would you put that there for a male founder? No, you wouldn't. So there are just very slight differences, nuances that you just pick up, and you just know that you're not quite at the table as much as your male counterparts. I think that's a bit of a challenge. But I think that ultimately good founders shine through. And as long as you have that determination and you don't take no for an answer, I think that that stat is going to change over time. I think another struggle or another element that I think is quite hard is that social proof. You know, in the early days of my tech, I used to put people at the top of search engines in about 3 weeks, and there were certain things you had to do and you knew the rules. I think now when you look at social media, there's so many platforms. There are so many different formats of the content that those platforms require, be it stills, be it video, be it whatever. And I think that gaining that social proof and understanding those social algorithms, because they're all so different, is actually one of the biggest challenges that we face, because it's amazing how much money you can spend on digital advertising, which you absolutely have to do without getting it right. And there's a lot of people out there that say that they can do it and they make big promises, but they're not always as good as at actually delivering them. So I'd say that the challenges that we face are sort of getting that blockchain, which I think we're well on top of. I think it's breaking the mold and finding that funding despite being a female founder. And then I think it's using that money wisely enough to be able to get that social proof in lots of, by lots of marketing, but specifically within those algorithms, which are so hard to crack.
That is wonderful. Amanda, one of the things that you touched on, I also agree with the gap that is available, that is present in the market when it comes to the male and the female founders. And we consciously make extra efforts, because if you want to bring about a change, you have to do things out of the norm. At YouPitchLive, this is one of our core sort of driving factors as well. So there are two key elements of us having built the relationship, that we are here at the evolution of our relationship, as well as that first, you're working towards the sustainability, the global 2030 sustainable goals is going to add great value to our planet. And the secondly, being the strong entrepreneur that you are, I think it should be all on the merit as opposed to your gender and your background. So it's wonderful to hear all of your struggles, all of your exciting ideas and things that you have done to date. I do see a very bright future for Omnēque, and it is very incredible. And any of the viewers who have any questions, we will be sharing the details when you reach out to Amanda, have any questions, make acquaintance. And look, Amanda, we are here at YouPitchLive to support your journey as well, and we'll do everything that we can to get you to the next step of your journey and see you going to this this big mountain that is ahead of you. But I have not a shadow of a doubt that you will absolutely attain it and reach to the top. Thank you so much.
We will. Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
No problem. Thank you.